Was noch? Ah? Was bewusst? Oh, Mandy Lipsker. I did it. Another Farbreng started. You're in the beginning. It started with a mice with the Rebbe Marash. Huh?
Was that supposed to be a general statement about this whole Farbreng?
The what?
That story. The story at the beginning of the...
You were here at the beginning?
Yeah.
It wasn't such a...
It's a story. Yeah. No, the Farbreng, what I wanted to talk about was the idea that Dreinzach in 770 is a good thing. When you feel weak, the Gemara says, Beis Medrash. If you're not, in other words, if there's Seder, you go to Seder. But if there's Azami in Zeit, hanging in 770, you're not going to do any of this. When you maybe before and after that, I don't know. But the Tayalis, this is what I wanted to bring about. The Shimusha Shal Teira, the Maile of being around 770.
So what was the story for?
The story was on my mind, and I'm one of those people who can't keep any secrets. The stories are Shlekel Chamaisa. You know how many stories that with the Rebbe there are? His whole Nesius is this story. Rebbe's whole Nesius is this mice. If the recorders were not on, I would tell you some good Lashon Hara, but Baruch Hashem, they recorded. I don't want to tell you the stories. Ay. There's so, the Rebbe's Nesius. The Rebbe's Nesius. The Rebbe's Mesiris Nefesh. The Rebbe needs the emes. Oh, yo, you have no idea. There was a Yid named Battle Eunuch. You heard of Battle Eunuch? Battle Eunuch was a very edel Yid. I remember him. He was a very fine man. And he was Mishadas. He was Mishadas to Rebbe's mother. Mishadas to Rebbe, he was close. The Rebbe let him in. His whole family, they were very close to the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. So, in the early years that Rebbe's Nesius, he was sometimes in the Rebbe's room. I mean, the Rebbe once told him, Brat, in Russian. You're my brother. Why did Rebbe tell him Brat? I mean, the official reason was, what is your name? You're also a Talmud Yeshiva, right? So I wanted to tell you a Maise. What I wanted to tell you? No, but the Rebbe. Oh, so Battle Eunuch was the Rebbe's room. The reason the Rebbe called him Brat, officially, as it gesagt, is because when the Rebbe's mother left Russia, they had fake passports. They're Polish Mapirin. So they had to create families. In other words, people went from Russia to Poland, from Poland to Russia in the war, and they died. They took their passports, they changed the pictures, and you became a Polish citizen, right? So it wasn't exact. So they bought passporten from the Alta Polish that died, right? So then you made families out of it. So if you had a mother and a son, so the Rebbe's mother was the mother, and Battle Eunuch was her son. And the Polish Papirin, he traveled as the son of the Rebbe Tzimchana. That's where they met. And the Battle Eunuch was close to the Rebbe. He was once in the Rebbe's room, and the Rebbe was reading mail. And the Rebbe mutters to himself as he's reading the mail, and Battle Eunuch hears it. Oy sa'anes, ich hab sich untergenommen, nur sind Gutes of Yidden. You understand Yiddish? Oy sa'anes, ich hab sich untergenommen, nur sind Guten. Oy, it's a miracle that I undertook only to see good things about you. Oy sa'anes. You know how much junk that I had to deal with? From us. Oy sa'anes, my father told me. It's just an example. It's a stupid example, but there's nothing stupid about it. There was a couple in Lubavitch, whose name I don't know, Baruch Hashem, I hope I never find out, who were young and stupid. But in their mind, they were young and self-important. So we're fighting a lot. So if you're fighting, you have to have a referee, you have to have a coach for Shalom Beis. Who was their coach? Lubavitch Rebbe. They had a fight. He got up in the morning, wrote a letter to Rebbe explaining how his wife is terrible. She got up in the morning, wrote to Rebbe how her husband is terrible. And the Rebbe was getting this mail for the two of them. It was like a whole diet of stupidity, Pasha. Shtusim. So my father told me they got once a minor from the Rebbe, Bezeh HaLoshen. Bezeh L'shoyne HaKodeš. Asker Shneim Alatziyim. sheyiyu shneim yoiser, and the Rebbe wrote in Hebrew, Mem Aleph Tes Vav Resh Matur. I'm imagining when the Oyo should both grow up. Erstens, you a bunch of kids. You're such kids that you think that I need to hear this garbage? Really? That's what I'm for. Ask Shneim Atzim Sheyiyu Shneim Yoiser Matur. This is the kind of. This is the Rebbe's. There was a Yid named Emmanuel Shochat. He was a very special man. He was a big Talmud Chacham. He served the Rebbe his whole life. Brilliant. He was a Shochat. So when he got married, the Rebbe hired him. He needed a job. It's a long story. And the Rebbe gave him a job, but you should pay him. I promise you didn't make him rich. Nobody got rich working for Chadakov. But he worked for the Rebbe. What was his job? The Rebbe used to get letters in many languages. And the Rebbe knew all those languages. But for whatever reason, the Rebbe wanted the letters translated into Hebrew. Meaning, if you wrote the Rebbe in English, or in Yiddish, or in Hebrew, or in Russian, the Rebbe read it in the original. But if you wrote the Rebbe in Dutch, or in German, or in Spanish, or in Italian, the Rebbe knew those languages, but he wanted to translate it. So there was a person who, French, the Rebbe probably read himself. He wrote, but the Rebbe wrote all these languages, but the Rebbe wanted, so the Rebbe hired a manual to translate the letters. So when the Rebbe offered him the job, he said to himself, this is going to be a very interesting job, because people are writing to the Rebbe from the whole world, and certainly they're writing about very interesting things. I'm going to have a window into the correspondence that Rebbe has with people. And then he started translating the letters. He says they were so stupid. Saying Narishkeit Nacham. It was so stupid, it was so boring. It got so boring, he started summarizing. And the Rebbe said, write every word. But they said, but this is Narishkeit. The Rebbe says, don't mix in my business. Translate every word. He said it was the most boring work. But anyway, I have another niggin. I have another good niggin. We just sang a good niggin. Noch epis a niggin. Epis a niggin. Cohen, you know Nigunim. Where do you go to school? Nu give epis a niggin. Blazovsky have epis a niggin. A stolen a niggin maybe? Or they don't do that anymore. They don't even say we're not stolen. It's so long ago. Yuzei de Zalman against Namalach. Faced? So there's this Simchas, the erste Jahr, where the Rebbe says to him, Wer ois Malach, wer a Mensch? The Rebbe spoke to him, put him Tovshan Chai in the tape. I'm sure you know about that, right? Don't family know. Zalman Blazovsky. You ever heard the tape?
No.
So I'm not going to tell you what the Rebbe said. You have to go find it yourself. Nu, who's a menagin? Who's a menagin? Brod, you're a menagin. You're a Levi. Levi is supposed to be menagnim. Levi is supposed to be menagnim.
Sure.
No, bepeh or bekleshid. Ikaz of bepeh. Allah was ikaz bepeh.
Alternative for those that are, can't sing, they can do share.
Music. Yeah.
Do the doors.
I'm learning a Maimed. This Minat said Sash Lamed from 50 years ago, where the Rebbe says that Meshoyerim and not allowed to become the Shoyerim. And the Shoyerim, you know this, right? And if you mix it into Chayiv Misa, yeah? So the Rebbe says, Beklalus, Meshoyerim and Shoyerim is Moshe Rabbeinu v'chol Sharak Alaviyim. Hest? So now you understand why you're not allowed to mix duties. If the Meshoyerim is one man, Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Shoyerim all the Leviyim. Who, this is, I think someone, you know what the name of this nigga? Huh? Yeah. But we had Tamil, I didn't get Der Fartiker, the finished one, which is a very unchassidish idea. That's what I heard. They sang this name by the Rebbe a few times. By the Rebbe they sang Freilich and Aguna, but this niggin got smuggled in a few times. They sang it. It was once a Rosh Hashanah that the Rebbe asked they should sing from each one of the Rebbeim a niggin with words and a niggin without words. And they got into trouble. They didn't have enough for the Tzemach Tzedek. They sang this. So what's the biggest miracle in Lubavitch? Just talk politics. Is the biggest miracle in Lubavitch Shlichus? Or is the biggest miracle in Lubavitch Anash? What they call the farmers. What's the biggest miracle in Lubavitch? Where do you live? You're Crown Heights, sir. You're tired. You are really seriously tired. I'm tired, but somehow I feel like you're more tired than I. Anyway, here's my question. This is politics. Mama, she didn't know the politics. Everybody says the biggest miracle of Lubavitch is Shlichus, and it's a big miracle, trust me. I say the biggest miracle of Lubavitch is Anash. Anshe Shleimeinu. We're a family. How do families behave? You have any family? Any relatives? You have relatives? You have brothers? You have sisters? Yeah? You love them all, huh? That's it. Oh, you just said the ghost thing. That face. Oh, that's the thing on Lubavitch. But you think about it. So 30 years in Gimel Tammuz, and we Baruch Hashem have gedunte fights. We disagree on so many things, and everybody's right, and the other guy's wrong, and you have to kill him because he's an anti-Semite. But you marry his kids. You go to the same schools. I'm telling you that if Shlichus is a nes, Shlichus is a nes. But the fact that we're one community, unreal. But it's not a nes. It's not a nes. It's not a nes. Why it's not a nes? Because it shouldn't be. It can't be. Apiteva. I have a misnagdish cousin. Basically, after Gimel Tammuz, everyone's very worried about Lubavitch. Before Gimel Tammuz, trying to kill Lubavitch, but now they're worried about Lubavitch. Basically, I came with 8 suggestions who they should make the new Rebbe. They all had the 8. So my cousin once told me, he says, you know, he's a real misnagid, he's Litvak, but he's a good guy. He says, you know what? You know what Chassidim? They say Chassidim like a soup. It works as long as someone stirs the pot. If you stop stirring the pot, it starts to get crispy on top. It's totally finished. So he told me, you got someone to stir the pot.
Fine.
I said to him, Matas, come to 770 and decide for yourself if someone's stirring the pot. They're stirring it too good. You got to lower the flame. It's not to be believed. Wasn't the teretz? The teretz is the Rebbe leapt. That's the teretz. The Rebbe leapt. Ubemeil is nicht kakashe. Nicht kakashe. Chevre von Shlichus. But who goes on Shlichus? I think you're from the Chassidische Chevre, yeah. But then there's the Chabad heavyweight, and then there's the lightweight, and the middle heavyweight, and the super lightweight, and the very light. But we're one mishpacha. It's amazing. The Rebbe leapt. And what does the Rebbe want? That we should learn a little more. We should daven a little bit. That's what he wants. We should serve Hashem. That's all he wants. So daven and learn and din the Meibishn. That's the ganze chayes. We were kids growing up, we heard, but the Frierdiker Frierdiker said once that when he gets a good basura for the Bochurim the yeshiva, he eats less. L'mashal. If on a regular I eat 2 pieces of bread, when I get good basura, I eat 1 piece of bread. That's what he said. It's a good trick. Huh?
The Basuras Tevis diet.
The Basuras Tevis diet, yeah, but you have to be a Rebbe to eat that kind of food. Basuras Tevis diet. Chaim Lebrach, I'm telling you, I'm good Maya, the Basuras Tevis. Bakel Mikkel Kol, and all good Sachen. Tevis Nida by Nigla. Maybe it's Taka Bremel. It's like from 1,000,000 years ago. It was a tape. All of us shown. Pepper was a record too. Pepper was a record. Things have changed so much. It's unreal. You know what hasn't changed? You know what hasn't changed? The world's changed so much in the last 50 years. What hasn't changed? Human nature. This is all befed. This is all behavior. I cashed in on this a lot. I say use this for my Farbreng speeches. There's a guy. His name is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs made a speech, a famous speech before he died. He died at 57 years old. That I want to change the world. How do you change the world? He created. It was called. What was it called? A macharak, yeah? No, before the iPhone. iPod, maybe, that it could hold 10,000 songs. And he was so proud of himself. He says, I'm going to change the world. So I read about him. When he died. I read about him. I was interested in him. And people have mixed feelings about him. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But this is for sure true. You don't change the world by making 10,000 thongs on a piece of paper. You change the world by making people be better in their behavior. That's changing the world. And the Lubavitch Rebbe is going to change the world. That's Mashiach. Mashiach is going to change the world, make people better. Nachamishi, 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 Nachamishi. You cannot change human nature unless you change it.
Maybe you could talk about some of the problems that Bochurim have these days.
Tell me what problems Bochurim have. All my Bochurim have no problems. My brother, no problems.
You mentioned Steve Jobs.
But Bochurim are all unemployed, so they don't have jobs. They don't have the problem with jobs.
Saying Steve Jobs made a lot of problems.
Did he?
He made things that make possible.
You think? This is the mice. The Yetzer Hara gets away scot-free. It's not the Yetzer Hara, it's Steve Jobs. It's not the Abish, it's Steve Jobs. Thank God for... The Yetzer Hara gets up and says, thank God for Steve Jobs. Who am I going to blame today? Huh?
Is that all you have to say?
That's all I got to say. Bibi Netanyahu once spoke about the Rebbe. And what he said the obvious thing. He said, the Rebbe never ever forgot what was most important. He never forgot what was the most important thing. And the most important thing is not money, and it's not power, and it's not materialism, it's people. And it's simple, but it's deep, you know. And we learned the Rebbe's kinder, the Rebbe's Talmidim. Our avoida is to not become a servant of Steve Jobs, and to be a servant of the Eibishter. That's our job. Here's the problem. It's boring, and it's out of vogue. You know, it's not cool. To be a Chassidish Bacher is not. When you realize how good being a Chassidish Bacher is, you're like 88. You know, like it's a couple of days late. Well, you know what makes a Chassidish Bacher? You know what makes a Chassidish Bacher Dalphon? That he's young. There are old guys, Chassidish Bacher, you know, old guys, Chassidish Bacher. Because he can't do Avedas as he wants to. He can't move, he can't see, he can't eat, he can't sleep. Okay, I'll be religious. I can go in this Bacher. Yeah. A Bacher, a young guy, can do whatever he wants. It's really true, I'm saying. I'm not joking around. A younger, manchikal, a Bacherl, who's a big Yetzer Hara, healthy, young, strong guy who dedicates himself to the Eibishter, that's special. That's very special. And if you stick it out, if you stay for the long years, you don't just go through like a 3-month your Chassidish spell, you know what I'm saying, but it becomes a way of life. It's wow. Chassidus is really, really good for the people that it works for, you know. It's for the people like in between, you know, that it's like it guilts me, it ruins my life, it doesn't give me what I need. But if it works for you, it's good stuff. It's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good. How do you make it good for you? You have to be in. First you gotta be in, and it's hard to be in. You gotta be in. Can't be one foot on the inside, one foot on the outside. You gotta be in. If I bring the other night someplace, I forgot which night, I forgot where I bring, but it was one of these nights. What a week. But we talked about, it was in my own sukkah, it's Yom Tov. We talked about the people who don't succeed at being everything that everyone wants them to be. You know, everyone's about to be Superman, you know. So a few Supermen and then a bunch of failures, you know. So he says, so how am I supposed to feel? The guy said to me, Rabbi, if I'm going to stay up all night, will I have more patience for my children and I won't scream at my wife tomorrow? Isn't that a great question? What's the answer? You'll absolutely scream at your kids and you'll be miserable to your wife. So what does that mean? To go to sleep or Simchas HaShoeva? Yeah. Huh? You dance and then you scream at your wife. You think? I'm asking you a question. Is that a good question? Says, ain't a good kasha. So you have those guys who, because they get all riled up, they become holy and they come home and they have so much patience and they're the nicest guys in the world. But most people it doesn't work for. So what's the avodah? It was a very good question. And there were people sitting at the table, so I had to answer. Otherwise, it looked not good for my image, you know, even though I wasn't being recorded. So I said, it's such a good question. It's such a because I would say most Lubavitchers suffer from this. There are Chassidish Yidden who are there, you know, that whatever the Rebbe is, they are, you know. I read someplace that an old chassid said, from the Fiedekador said, that this Rebbe started with the Fiedekador finished. He didn't start over. Whatever he was holding, and he expects the same of us, that we should be holding where he's holding. But we're not holding where he's holding, so what are we supposed to do? Anyway, so I said to this person, when he asked me this question, I said to this person, you gotta believe. You have to believe that it's the truth, even if you're not holding there. Because to do it and hate it is stupid. You're going to stay up all night. Are you going to be snap at your kids? Probably. But you have to believe that when you serve the Abish, you become a better person. And then you're not going to become a better person. This is my answer. Lou, what do you got to say, Silver?
I came back for one reason only.
Tell me what.
And ask you a question.
Really? That's why you came back?
I don't understand the point of Simchas Beis at all.
You know why you don't understand? You know why you don't understand? You know why you don't understand? You know why you don't understand, Silver?
Sure.
Because you never did it.
What do you mean?
Exactly what I said. I know, but you didn't do it.
Exactly. Fine. How do I do it?
Go do it.
How?
Get into that ring and stay there till 6 o'clock. That's 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
So then you'll never.
I don't have the kalim.
So then
Sit there for
no,
3.5 hours.
you don't have the bittul.
I don't have the bittul. I don't have the kalim. I don't
Okay,
have either.
if you will do it, you will understand so well.
I've done for an hour and a half.
It's a lot. It's not bad.
Okay, it's not. See, it's not bad.
But you know what?
Still,
You know.
I
Do
push it
you
after
know
an
what?
hour and a
I
half.
want to tell you something. To me,
You agree with me?
no,
It doesn't speak. It speaks to you.
not at all.
You see? So you do agree with me?
No. What you're saying doesn't speak to me.
Oh, okay.
I tell people honestly, I'm an old fed, and I use Farbreng as an excuse. But when I went to HaShoeva and I danced for hours, I will say to you, it's the holiest single experience in my life. When you dance 3 hours, you're holy. You forget about yourself. It's a real experience.
I don't have the bittul. How do I get?
You know, keep doing. You only do it twice an hour and a half. Simchas Beis HaShoeva is and that's the way if it works. You come 12 o'clock at night, there's nothing happening. Come 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. That's what's going on, and you dance.
What's happening?
And what's happening is you're joining in with other chassidim, and you're being besimcha, and you get lost in that simcha. And when you get lost in that simcha, you missed you heard my sikha about holy, the whole holy speech. That's the closest thing to holiness. The Simchas Beis HaShoeva. The closest thing to holiness. And if you don't know what it feels like, you gotta do it some more.
What if I go for 3 hours and I still don't feel it? Do I get pucker then?
Huh?
If I go for 3 hours, then I still don't feel it. Am I pucker?
I'll feel very bad for you.
Okay, but am I pucker?
Pata, you're never gonna be pata.
Never
It's
pucker.
not good. You could rebel against the whole program and say, listen, Chabad doesn't work for me, and become a litvak. And
No, Chabad works.
sleep at night and get up in the morning and be a normal person and daven in the shul and learn Torah. Do all those exotic things.
See, it's also the problem. I don't wake up in the morning. Like I'm saying, I wake up at 6:45.
So you're never stuck. You're never stuck in the marriage.
Exactly.
So you better figure it out. You better figure it
No
out.
other option.
Okay, people, I gotta go to sleep. I'm sorry. I'm very tired.
You just said you have to go to dance.
Staying up all night.
What I say. What I do, I do. I can't do this. I'm getting sick.
Take one match to help.
Really, you have experience.
Not me.
You heard.
Coin in the serving the Beis Mikdash.
Say that again.
Was there a Cohen serving the Beis Mikdash? I just can't eat another korban prophet.
Yeah.
I can't eat another shlomo.
Yeah, there
I'm
was.
finished.
You're a kohen, right? So you can eat a korban chatas. The Gemara says that there was one Yid that in his time there was no noisa, which means that other times there was noisa. Pashut, they were eating and eating and eating and eating, and they couldn't eat no more. It's like the kaponas that don't get kashrut, you know. And they had to burn it. They ate chatois and hashamis.
The Yid. bring korban katan.
You'd be dying tomorrow.
The Kohen has to eat it.
Kohen says, I can't eat it anymore.
It happened.
Kohen wouldn't do that.
It happened. It happened.
4 years once. He wants
4 years. See, but they made sure he didn't know. They didn't. No, you don't understand. They would arrange it in such a way that you didn't know which carbon got eaten and which carbon got burned. Of course, he didn't let you know. I'm not eating yours. We're busy putting it into the pot. I was describing to the boys, one of the features of the Kohanim eating, which people don't realize, is that they ate standing up. They couldn't sit down. Only the Kohen David Melech. Man, what a situation. What a situation. Huh? Barefoot, and it was pretty cold up there.
The Amazon, the river, the pink
Yeah,
dolphins.
they did it anyway.
The Amazon river.
They look forward to it every Dishmar that they have.
And every 24 weeks, they got 1 day.
1 day.
Pink dolphins are real.
Right there.
So you're going to tell me that one opportunity they have.
It's not a pink dolphin, it's a white dolphin.
I can't eat another bite.
No, they ate and ate and ate and ate and ate, and then they couldn't eat no more. That's not kidding. You know, if they ate.
How do you explain to someone who's not in touch with themselves that the real person who they are is really genius, that's really who they are, and that all the Bochurim is really Torah mitzvahs? How do you explain to someone who's so far gone, doesn't feel anything close to that that's really who they are?
How do you explain it? You can't.
How do you connect them to that? How do you inspire them to be that?
You put on tefillin with them. Don't give no speeches. Just shake a lulav.
Right on like a 7-8 days.
Don't waste your time with words. Mitzvahs. It takes a while, but it works. Mitzvahim is a good trick. It's such a shortcut. Bypass the nefesh habahamis, the seichel, the midas, just straight to the neshama. Mitzvahim is a crazy concept. You know the story with the Rebbe? I wanted to see him at Rambam's. A guy came and spoke. He told the story that he lived in Crown Heights. He was a Gerach Chassid, he was a Gerach HaShoeva. And his mother died when he was a little boy. And how the Rebbe was very important in their family.
My grandpa was also a Gerach Chassid. I just made that out there.
Whatever, okay? Yeah. Anyway, bottom line is this, that his father was an almond. His father was a widower. His father was raising kids alone. And he was at least 9 or 10 when his mother passed away, and they were very poor. And his father worked as a diamond cutter. In the olden days, a lot of from Jews worked in 47th Street. They actually cut stones. You could make a living. I mean, I'm sure you didn't get rich, but people did it. So sometimes after school, he would get into a train and go into the city because there was nothing to do at home. He was the youngest. There's no mother. So he went to the city. And he loved the Rebbe. He had a weakness for the Rebbe. He said you'd Shvat. He says, remember, they moved to Borough Park. When they lived in Crown Heights, his father took him to the Farbreng, and they were really poor. And he woke up when he was crying. His father was Weinstein. He says, Yid Shvat, ich will geiner 777. His father took a taxi, which was money he didn't have, and he put him in a cab and took him to 770 for the Farbreng. So he tells us, so when he went to his father's place of work, you see that Yid is a Sat Mechosid. Guy sees him and had the master from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Go over to him and start for the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So he went over to this man and said, "You heard just the mice of the Lubavitcher guy got really nervous and get away, little schmeckel, don't bother me." So he went back to his father and says, "He told me off." He says, "No, go back again." And he wasn't going to tell him. So the father went, this little boy needs to hear a story from the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Tells Mama said that he was married before the war. This Hungarian Jew, and he had several children. And one day he woke up and he decides he has enough with this. He's moving to Paris. He's starting over. He doesn't even give his wife a divorce. He just abandons her. Travels to Paris, rents himself a room. He's going to go to the university. He's going to do the clubs. He's going to have a good time. You know. The day he arrives in Paris, there's a knock on his door. And the man walks in, and the man says, "Did you put on film?" He says, "No." He says, "You have to put on film." He says, "I gave up that life. I'm done with that." He says, "No, you put on film." He says, "Get out of my apartment." He says, "I'm going to leave your apartment right away. I promise you. As soon as you put on film, I'm going to leave your apartment." So they argue. He said, "Get out. I promise you, I'm going to leave right away." Anyway, the guy had no choice. He put on film. The guy left right away. The next day he came again. And the next day he came again. Every day. And after a few weeks, obviously they didn't more than film. He bought him a ticket to the back, his wife and his kids. And the guy who came to the apartment every day to put film on him was the Lubavitcher Rebbe himself. He practiced the Mivtzoyim before he gave him to us. He didn't say one word to the guy. He didn't say, how do you abandon your wife and kids? He just said, put him to us. That's it. Day after day after day after day after day. The guy said, I think I'm going to go back to my family. It's a good story, huh? And I heard by Simon Rambam. This guy got up and told the story. But it's the truth. It's mamish emes. You shakal alulav, it's magic. Magic. It doesn't make sense, but it's a lukus. My wife was reading the Vesach. This is, I don't want to talk about the Yom Kippur War because we're talking about the whole Yom. There was the Yom Kippur War, and I'm not repeat myself, Chas v'shalom. But here I go repeating myself. This is the 50th birthday of the Yom Kippur War.
50th?
Yeah, Tafshin Lamedal, Tafshin Pei Dalet. It's a terrible war. You remember, how old are you?
I'm in my 50th anniversary. 50.
You're turning 50, so you're 8 years younger than I am. So you were born in 74. Oh, I was a big guy. We're talking. I was 8 years old. You're kidding? I'm like I was almost a soldier. My most vivid memory of the Yom Kippur War is men whispering, and I would walk over, and my father would push me away, so I shouldn't listen. So of course, your father pushed you. You had to listen. You listen, and they were talking about dying Jews, dying. So many Yidden Hargit Yavanim. So the story of the Yom Kippur War that my wife read to me was that Meir Freiman, I think Meir Freiman, he was separate from his wife. He was in the front. He was a mafaked. He was some kind of an officer, and he had a platoon. He had a tank with a bunch of chavra. And at some point in Sukkot, they got him a lulav. So he made all of his chavra make a bracha, and then he radioed the tank next to him. There was another guy there. He says, "Come here, and you make a bracha lulav." Now this was the beginning of the war. The beginning of the war in the south, they were sitting ducks because the Israelis were spread very thin, and the Egyptians came with big armies, and they were just slaughtering Jews. They were helpless, and until we mobilized and we got them reinforcements, they were busted dead. So Meir Freiman sends a radio message to the other guy. He says, "Come, bring your people, put on film." So the guy says, "We're about to die." Not film, esrog. So he said, "Listen, if we're going to die, you might as well die doing a mitzvah." So the guy came over with all of his chavra, and when they were shaking the lulav, their tank blew up. Took a direct hit. So the guy was freaked out. He says to Meir Freiman, "I am your superior officer. You have to follow my command. You have to give me the dal minim." And what about me? So the guy ran around the whole sukkah shaking lulav with Tyson to Soldaten. He carried that essay like to put him. It was a little shriveled up hard, you know. He wouldn't let go of the essay. The mefaked. He wasn't from because he's so b'muchash. A mitzvah. I'm learning the Maimorim of Lamadal. That's what I'm doing. I teach Maimorim of the Rebbe. And this year I'm learning Maimorim backwards. So I did Vesach, Memches, Memzayin, Memvav. Now I'm doing Lamadalad. I love to say count the numbers backwards. It's a lot of Maimorim. It's over 800 Maimorim. So the Maimorim of the war have two themes. One theme is mitzvahs, doing a mitzvah, shaking a lulav, sitting in a sukkah saves a life, and the other simcha. The Rebbe has a maimed. The whole maimed is like nigla. It's like a nigla maimed. What's the point? That the cheftzeh shal mitzvah, you do a mitzvah, has a kedusha. Has a kedusha, yeah. And the Rebbe proves that of all the physical things to do a mitzvah, no mitzvah is more holy than the sukkah. Because the Gemara compares the kedusha of a sukkah to the kedusha of a carbon. And then the Rebbe says, if it's true of the sukkah, it's probably true of the lulav also. How he works that out, I didn't see, but he made it work. The Rebbe spoke in the Maimorim, the koyach of a mitzvah. You do a mitzvah, you have atmos. You have atmos, he looks after you. The Rebbe, the Heilige Rebbe. Ay. It's not fun to be a Rebbe, you know? It's not fun to be a Rebbe. It's not a fun job. It's not a fun job. You don't want the job.
Narash used to schwitz.
Yeah. He would change his beged several times in one night. Because he said when a person went to Yechidus, you have to go into them. And then when you leave, you have to go out. So imagine getting dressed and undressed 40 times in an hour. The thing about the Rebbe Marash is such an interesting person.
That's today's Ushpizin, right?
Tonight and tomorrow, yeah.
Tonight, yeah.
The Rebbe Marash always had a smile on his face, always. And he looked at you and you started to shake and you didn't even know what you were afraid of. The power of the man. L'chatchila Rebbe was not a slogan, it was a way of life. The Marash was afraid of nothing and no one. From childhood. He was fearless. But he just was not afraid of anything. The king of the Eibishter. Huh?
There's a mice with the wagon driver. Right?
That what?
The Rebbe used to, the wagon used to take him off. Chassidim weren't allowed to know where the Rebbe would go.
Right.
Wagon driver, one time they got the wagon driver shicker, and they started to fight, they started to pry. He says, I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing, I'm much braver than your Rebbe. I said, why? He says, I take him to the oil, I take him to the graveyard, and as soon as he steps into the grave,
he starts to cry.
He starts to cry and starts to shit.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of the dead.
I'm not afraid of the dead.
There's a tape of the Rebbe telling a story. The Rebbe Marash would go into the forest. He would sit down, and from all around, insects would come and just cover his body and bite at him. He would sit there for a half an hour, and then by cue, the insects would just go away. That's a trick. To invite the insects, all you got to do is smell, but to send them away is not so simple. That's what he wanted. Why was he bothering him? The Rebbe Marash. Every day, he began to spazier. And the insects would come and climb over him, and then after when it was time to go, they would just get off. He didn't do this, they just went away. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. The little critters, the ones that get into your, behind your ear. And,
That's also the one with like very thin hand on one hand. Because he was,
there was a Mittel Rebbe.
that was in the Torah.
Mittel Rebbe. The Marash. He was a Rebbe for a short time.
How short?
18 years. 18 years. 18 years. No. 4 and 2 is 6 and 10 is 16 years. Passed away Tafresh Mem Gimel, 1882. He became a Rebbe in 18...
Very wealthy, right?
For a time. When he passed away,
So wealthy.
he came late. I'm not going to repeat. He came late. You're not letting know.
What's the purpose of Lekach? Coming up to Lekach again on Shana Hour. What's
the purpose of Lekach? I mean, the Rebbe once told people why. That if you have to get bidei basav adam, you yate with the Lekach. If the Eibush was going,
the one that's giving it to us.
because he's giving you Azisa Yar. Azisa Lekach.